Okay, today's lesson is about trigonometry. Trigonometry is the study of right triangles. So we're going to look at three trigonometric functions and their ratios. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to have to look at these right triangles. We're going to have a new term today. It's called theta. And theta is the Greek letter with a circle with a line through it, and it means the angle. Okay, we're going to be using theta throughout our trigonometry unit, and all it means is that it's the angle. Now, when I have a right triangle, I need to be able to identify the sides. If my theta or angle is located here, then that means I need to look directly across from it, and I'm going to label that side the opposite side. So I'm going to abbreviate that for OPP for opposite side. The next side to find is the hypotenuse, and that's always across the right angle. So I'm going to label that side the hypotenuse. And the last side is the adjacent side. That's the leg next to the angle. Okay, so this is how we are going to identify our sides, and we will need to write these out when we're working with our trig functions. So again, theta is the angle. Directly across that side is the opposite side. The hypotenuse is the next one to label. That's the one across from the right angle. And then we have the adjacent side, which is next to the theta. Okay, well, I have a second triangle here because theta can move. What if theta were here in this location? Well, that changes the names because now theta makes this side the opposite side. Hypotenuse will stay the same. The hypotenuse stays the same in any right triangle. It's always the longest side. But then my adjacent side switches too. So now my adjacent side is on the left side and my opposite side is on the bottom. Okay, what we're going to do with these is we are going to, I'm going to write a mnemonic device to help you remember your trig functions. It's called Sohcahtoa. I was always told the story that it's about a great Indian chief, but really it's a mnemonic device to help you remember the trig functions. So our first trig function that we're going to look at is called the sine. This is the official spelling of it. Mathematically, we have sine with sin of the angle theta, and that's equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse side. We're comparing two of the sides of the right triangle that represent the sine. The next one is cosine. We represent that with cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. The official spelling is above. In the cosine of theta, that compares the adjacent side to the hypotenuse side. And then we have our last trig function, the tangent. And we use TAN for short. And that tangent function compares the opposite side to the adjacent side. So here's how it puts together with Sohcahtoa. Okay, Sohcahtoa compares the sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The CAH part is the cosine. Cosine compares adjacent to hypotenuse. And the TOA part is the tangent. The tangent compares opposite to adjacent. So it's really there to help you remember the trig functions. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Okay, so here's example 1. We have a right triangle with sides of 6, 8, and 10. And in our example 2, we have a right triangle with sides 10, 24, and 26. And it says to find the trig ratios for angle C, angle, and angle R. So for example 1, we're going to find the trig ratios of angle C. That means we're going to find the sine of C, the cosine of C, and the tangent of C. C is our theta. So theta is going to go right here in that triangle because I need to identify the sides. Remember, the sides are based on where the angle is located. So if I have theta at C, that makes 8 my opposite side. So I'm going to label 8 the opposite side. My next side is the hypotenuse. That's going to be 10. So I'm going to label that hypotenuse. And then 6 is my adjacent side. So I'm going to label that one adjacent. Okay, now I'm going to use Sohcahtoa and I'm going to write it small here since I can't see it on my other page. So I have my mnemonic device to help me. Sine is going to compare opposite to hypotenuse. Well, I've labeled my opposite side 8 and my hypotenuse 10. That's going to be my ratio. Okay, then I need to simplify it. 2 goes into both of those, so it reduces to 4/5. This is my ratio. This is my answer. I'm just writing a ratio between the sides. Cosine is the adjacent over hypotenuse. So I've labeled my adjacent side 6, my hypotenuse side 10, and there's my ratio. I do need to simplify it. That becomes 3/5. Tangent compares my opposite side to the adjacent side. So I've labeled the opposite side 8 and my adjacent side 6, and that reduces down to 4/3. These are my trig ratios. As far as the problem is asking, this is complete. Okay, for example 2, it says find the trig ratios for angle R. That means I'm going to be finding the sine of angle R, the cosine of angle R, and the tangent of angle R. That makes angle R my theta. So here is angle R. There's theta. That means 10 is my opposite side. 26 is across the 90-degree angle, so it's my hypotenuse. And that makes 24 my adjacent side. Sine, again, compares opposite to hypotenuse. That means I'm going to have 10 over 26. Again, all trig functions need to be simplified. That's going to be 5 over 13. My cosine compares adjacent to hypotenuse. Adjacent is 24. Hypotenuse is 26. And that reduces down to 12 over 13. So there's my trig ratio. And tangent compares opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 10. Adjacent is 24. And that simplifies to 5/12. So what we're doing today is we're just simply learning our trigonometric ratios and being able to write the ratios comparing the sides. Okay, you have the CUDA assignment to complete. It needs to be done before the next class period.